Hello. So earlier today, somebody commented on one of my book reviews asking how I decide the next book that I'm going to read. And so far, I haven't done any TBR videos, to be read videos, because I don't really plan out very much ahead of in advance of what I'm going to be reading. But I did think it was an interesting idea to just do a video of what's kind of rattling around in my head right now, um, because I'm between books and I'm trying to. I have a lot of ideas of what I'm going to read, and this is kind of typical of um, what um, what I go through trying to find out a book, and it's kind of a fun part. I always enjoy figuring out what I'm going to read next. So I'm just going to start talking about a whole bunch of books that have been on my mind or whatever, um, and probably one of these books is going to be the next thing that I read. So the first book is probably this is going to be the next book that I read. It's this one, it's Shelley The Pursuit by Richard Holmes. Richard Holmes is one of my favorite biographers. He did a fantastic biography on Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It's a two-part biography. I love it. And I'm still trying to keep myself within the parameters of nonfiction November. So this is something that I would love to read, and it's a nice, thick, big brick of a book, so that might be fun. I just finished reading Life on the Mississippi, and in it, it talks about the steamboat, which reminded me of Toilers of the Sea by Victor Hugo. And in Toilers, these steamboats start sailing by, and people think that they're the devil. They see like black smoke coming out, and there are these really scary foreign boats that they feel are evil. And it's as soon as I start thinking of Toilers of the Sea, I kind of start, oh, maybe I'll read it. And it's a historical novel, so not that it fits in with nonfiction November, but there is a lot of essays and things the way that Victor Hugo tends to write. Robert Musil, The Confessions of a Young Tourist. I just started thinking about this because I just pre-ordered a book. There's a new translation of one of his works coming out next month, and probably not going to get into A Man Without Qualities, but I thought sort of like a novella length thing. So maybe I'll read that. It'll probably be quick. I just recently read this super short essay by Orwell on a proper cup of tea, and same kind of thing. Like, as soon as I read it, I think, well, maybe I'll read something longer by Orwell because I enjoy him so much. And I had recently read Germinal by Zola, which also made me think of Orwell because Germinal is about the poor conditions in a coal mining town, and Orwell has a book, The Road to Wigan Pier, which is a reportage novel about his experiences and what he learned about the poor conditions of a working town. And I think it's in England, set in England. I'm not sure, but maybe I'll read that. Another one. Well, I also thought with Mark Twain about the Gilded Age and this is written by Mark Twain and Charles Dudley Warner. One of the things that interested me about this is that it's co-written, and I'm interested to see how that affects the structure of the novel and the quality of the writing, because for as much as I like Twain, I do feel like he has some shortcomings. I just recently read The Secret History by Procopius, and in it, Domitian is talked about, the one of the Caesars, and he's also mentioned in Suetonius's work, The 12 Caesars, this book. And I probably won't read the whole thing, but I thought maybe I'll just read just the little bio on Domitian. I thought about maybe reading a short piece by Kierkegaard, Repetition. I probably will read this fairly soon. I've read it before, and I tend to go back to Kierkegaard a lot. Another book that I've read but felt that maybe it fit into nonfiction November is My Childhood by Maxim Gorky. It's terrifying, brutal, sometimes hilarious account. So I thought about reading something just totally different, some kind of romantic love story. It's The Lady of the Camellias. I think that's how you say it. You're wrong. Alexander Dumas Fills. I can't remember if that means it's the son or the father, but it's one of them. What else do I have? And I felt like I've read a couple, like during Victober, all the Victorian novels that I've read or heard or talked about, and one of the common threads that like always pops up with these Victorian novels is Walter Scott. Everyone's reading Walter Scott in all of these books, all the characters. It's even in a lot of Russian literature. Everyone's reading Walter Scott, and it's been on my mind. And I've been wanting to. I've read Ivanhoe, which I thought was just such great fun, and I was thinking about going back to that. Also, here's another Walter Scott. It's The Antiquary, which I've not read, so I thought maybe I would just read something new. Sometimes there's comfort in reading something that you've already read and enjoyed, and you can dip back into. And then sometimes you just want a totally new experience. I saw on Kathy's channel on Grim Reads, she was discussing Being in Time by Heidegger, and I have a copy of it. This is a real long shot. I do not see myself cracking into this whole entire thing this year anyway, but it did kind of skip across my mind that maybe I'd read it along with her as she goes along, or maybe just read a chapter, make sure I don't know what's being said. What else do I have? This is a book that was recommended to me by somebody. It's The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch by Philip K. Dick. This has been kind of sitting around for a while now. I've only read a few things by Philip K. Dick. I'm not a big sci-fi fan, but sometimes after reading a lot of weighty stuff, it's nice to just have like an escape. Not that he's fluff, but very story-driven. What else do I have? One of the things I was really considering through while I was thinking about nonfiction is a lot of the ancient Greeks, and this stuff I'm definitely gonna I'm thinking that I am going to get into before the end of the month. So maybe some selected speeches by Demosthenes. Um, and like, as soon as I start thinking about that, my mind goes to like some of my favorites. So what do I have? Here's like maybe some selected letters by Seneca. I have some of his tragedies, which are violent and great. Then all these books, and sometimes I think you know maybe I'll just read Cicero for like a year to just read Cicero. Uh, not that I ever seriously consider it, but sometimes I do. I just think like maybe I'll just read um, like very clear-minded, eloquent writing. One of the reasons that I like to read is that I feel that it improves the quality of my thoughts. And I love Cicero, so I'm going to be dipping into some of this at some point, but I'm not really sure. Maybe a week or so ago, I started reading Don Juan by Moliere. And it was enjoyable enough. It was funny. Some of the characters reminded me of like the Oscar Wilde type character, where they have a lot of quotable, humorous, dangerous little lines that they have. And it was funny, but it didn't really catch me. So I think this is a book that a play that I'm probably not going to finish. It just didn't tickle me. A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. Brian from Bookish was talking about his experience reading it, and I was interested. I feel like it's kind of on the back burner, but it's short enough. Maybe I will read it. Something that I definitely want to read by the end of the year is The Milkman, or just Milkman by Anna Burns. Someone recommended this to me. I think it was Amelia. I could be getting that wrong. If I do a review of it, I'll definitely make sure I thank the person, but I think it was Amelia. I'm going to read it, but like the first sentence didn't wow me. It starts with, "The day somebody put a gun to my breast," and the mix somebody thing is, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with I'm sure it has something to do with the story. Something that I am reading right now, it's sort of my bedtime book, is Purgatorio, Dante. And I started thinking about Dante and Petrarch recently, because I just read a little biography on Michelangelo, and Michelangelo read a lot of Dante, and I'm taking an online course to learn Italian. It's kind of fun, and this is like facing pages, so this is like a long term. Just read it until I pass out every night. I think I kind of went through a whole bunch of books. I guess the last one I'll mention, which I'm thinking about reading, is Sentimental Education by Flaubert. I won't be reading this one. I have a great translation by Perdita Burlingame, which I love. And sometimes with all these Victorian novels and historical novels, I kind of always land back to Flaubert when I think about wanting to read something truly exceptional. So I would like to read this before the end of the year. Anyway, I just named a whole bunch of books. I'm not ending this with telling you what I am going to read, because I still don't know. If you're interested, you can suggest any of the books that I mentioned, or if you have your own suggestions, they're always welcome. And thank you for watching. Bye.